honest, we're a bunch of idiots. Well, I'm an idiot, not Bree. Sorry.
I, I can be it.
Yeah, I just saw the message now. This meeting is being live streamed
Okay.
and wants me to click OK. Do I need to
Yeah,
do that? All right.
I don't. That's the first
All right.
time I've ever heard that.
Yeah, I clicked it. It's hopefully I'm still on, but
You are. All right. So we are live on YouTube. We'll get that going.
And I'm going
Yeah.
to.
So got about 12 minutes. Is there anything you don't want to talk about?
um yeah, not that I can think of.
Okay.
Nothing I can think of.
All right. So we are live on YouTube. We'll get that going.
Wow, talk about a delay.
Mhm.
Okay, thumbs up, share out,
That's so they can censor me.
stop. I thought I was the one gonna get us canceled.
So did you study up? Did you get me some good stories?
Yeah, I got some interesting things. I watched some of your videos. I watched a few of them actually, so I kind of, understand the format of it. And yeah, I have the questions prepared, and I'll just play it off like I don't know what's coming, but yeah,
Oh,
but I
okay.
do.
So you vetted me out, is what you're saying.
Mm. Yeah, did my homework. Did my homework.
So you already know this is a shit show then.
No, I mean you have
You're
some
welcome.
yeah, you have some really interesting guests on. You really
Mhm.
had some really interesting guests with great stories, and I've been enjoying watching them. Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked to a lot of people. We've had the quote unquote a lot of celebrities on. Um, I just like to chit chat about the paranormal, whatever it
Mhm.
is. Everybody's got a point of view. Everybody's got an opinion, and I don't know. It's fun for me. I learn a lot of things from a lot of people, and people learn stuff from me, and I don't know. That's the beauty of it, I guess.
Yeah, of course. We all learn from each other. It should be a field where we're all working together for one common cause and to better understand the
Should be.
field. Yeah,
Should be.
exactly. It should be.
It's more of a dick measuring contest, but it should be where, people help each other, but
Mhm.
it really isn't.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So this is my first time actually doing this type of video format. I've done podcasts in the past, like a decade ago. I had investigated for quite a while in the past, and that's when I did my podcast way back when. But it was all audio only over the phone. So this is my
Okay.
first one actually on camera. So I'm a little nervous, but you know, uh,
So
I'll be fine.
don't be nervous. If you need to, go take a shot real quick or something,
Yeah,
or grab a
yeah. No,
cocktail.
I'll be fine. It's just
Okay.
the pre-show jitters. That's all.
Pre-show jitters.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
What do I do with my hands? I have
No,
a phone.
dude,
That's what I do with mine.
we just like to have fun, and we like to learn, about all our guests. And honestly, sometimes, I mean, there's a lot where we don't even talk about the paranormal, and
Mm.
I think that's great. And we are shifting things here in the future, getting on some different style of people, not just paranormal. Other factors or genres in the entertainment to some financial gurus.
Mm.
So I think it'll be interesting. We'll see where it goes. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like Gettysburg Bash. I've been to the Bash, but this year was the first time that we attempted ever to take our podcast to a convention,
Mm.
and I mean, it was all right. We learned a lot from it.
Yeah. Ashley, when I saw you setting up your table and putting on the microphones, I thought they were just basically props. I didn't realize you were actually doing live shows, or miniature shows from your table. So I thought you were setting up the microphones to show that you are podcasters, that you do have a show, and I didn't know you were actually interviewing people, which I thought was really cool.
Mhm.
Really cool.
We should have done a lot more with it, but we didn't. But
Well, Yeah, the last day I think I ran around like a chicken with my head cut off, like, okay, we got to get people to the table. So, but I mean, it was a learning experience on how to go about, getting it set up, making sure the equipment was good, and pre-planning our
Mhm.
the guests. So,
Mm,
And Sean is at a soccer game for his daughter, so I don't know if or when he'll be on.
okay.
So Bree is the fill-in when Sean is not here.
Okay, that's what it says.
I
Sometimes
planned on,
three. Okay.
yeah, I planned on kind of jumping in anyways.
Yeah, she's a history nerd, so she's all
Okay. All
geeked out
right.
to talk to you. So,
Oh yeah, I've been looking forward to this.
but
Mm,
all
as
right.
as have I. Yeah. And thank you again for having me on. I appreciate that.
You know what happens is we go to a lot of conventions. This year we dialed it back a lot. Not gonna lie. And I go there and I do a lot of networking, and you exchange cards. I'm like, come on the podcast, like yes, 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 and then you already have. So we book out only 2 months in advance because it come to a point where if you book out 3 4 months, people kind of forget about it, and then you're constantly rescheduling.
Mm,
So we quit doing that. So we only like I said, schedule out a month or two in advance. And this happened to come to the point where this is our scheduling time for September and October, and we had the last 2 weeks of August open. And talking to Bree about it, I'm like, normally I totally space the people that I meet at the Paracons,
mm,
and then the cards just sit on the desk forever. So it was important to, while our minds were still fresh, like, no, let's get you on. The Adam that's sitting next to you, Adam the glider,
Lighter.
mm.
he'll be on, and just to make an emphasis, like not to forget about that. You do all that work to network and meet new people,
Yeah.
then you're like, huh.
Mm,
So,
And then you're
yeah.
scrambling for guests, like who
then
we're
you're
gonna
straight.
have on, and then we forget, and then it's like we make the schedule and it's like, oh, what about that stack of cards on the bookshelf?
Yeah,
Hmm.
literally, it's like this, but
Well,
Hey,
it's
that's good. It's you can look at it as job security, I guess. There's always going to be someone to have on.
it's only job security if you're getting paid to do this.
Well, true, but hey, you never know.
Yeah, maybe one day.
hey, but till then it's fun, and that's what matters.
Yeah, I
Yes,
enjoy it.
yes.
I enjoy it, or I wouldn't do it.
Ruffle feathers in the way, and
We have done that. I don't know how we have not been canceled so far. But, you know, that's why we went to a normal podcast format. You can't really cancel that.
Mm.
no,
I can say whatever I want.
exactly.
So, well, you ready to get going? We'll just hit record early.
I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
All right. Go. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Old World Paranormal Podcast. This is going to be episode 123. And you're probably already thinking, wait, this is Nick doing the intro. I know. Because once again, my part-time co-host, Sean Coletta, is busy with his Amish family of 12 kids at some soccer game. So I graciously asked the lovely Bree Hollingshead to join me again. That's who you hear laughing in the background. Bree, thank you so much for filling in, or you're pretty much becoming damn near a full-time co-host.
I know.
And our dog is going crazy right now.
I'm wondering if I need to run downstairs and see what she's going ape shit over.
Probably.
All right, I'll be right back.
Unfortunately, we are not Joe Rogan, and we do not have a massive podcast studio off-site. We are in our house, in our office, so we have to deal with the dog barking at stupid people every once in a while. So, coming off, a lot of things during the summer. We took a lot of time off, but we did go to the Gettysburg Bash, and we had a great time there. And Sean is working on putting together a lot of short videos of some of the interviews that we did at the bash. And the gentleman we're having on tonight is one of the shorts you will see coming up on YouTube here in the near future. But we liked him so much, we were like, Adam, 5-10 minutes is not enough. We need to have you come on for a full episode, and let's geek out, nerd out all about history stuff, the Victorian age, and all this good stuff. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Adam Shefts.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nick. Pleasure to be
Adam,
here.
I gotta know, are you still nervous, bro?
I'm okay. It was just pre-show
Calm it down.
jitters. Pre-show jitters. This is my haven't done this video format. It's my first time doing it, but I'm good now.
So Adam here was literally directly across from us at the Gettysburg Bash. Looking at his table, he had a plethora of books. And I kept looking at this guy and I kept thinking two things. Holy shit, his hairline is on point. And number two, this guy's got to be smart because there's a lot of books on his table that he has written. And that is why this gentleman is on the podcast tonight. Who was the dog barking at, babe?
Amazon.
Amazon. Did they bring us something?
Alex got some.
Oh, Alex, damn it. I thought it was Christmas and we got an Amazon gift, but we did not.
No.
So, Adam, I need to know, how was your experience at the Gettysburg Bash? Now, you told me when you were there that was your first Paracon
Yes.
that you've ever done. Now, for that being your first Paracon, that is a rather big Paracon. So not only did you get your feet wet, you just said, fuck it, I'm just jumping right in and I'm going to see what happens.
Yeah, best way to learn, I feel, is just be thrown in and learn as you go. But it was my first event or Paracon or con, period, of any kind. I had never even attended a con as even just a guest. But I had the opportunity to attend the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. I had no idea how it worked, didn't know what I was supposed to do. When I found my table, I didn't even know anyone around me. I was looking at all the name tags around me. The only two tables I knew, because I was more toward the back, the only tables I knew were someone up front and then someone out in the hallway. So
Okay.
I was completely lost. I was watching what everyone else was doing, taking it all in. You probably saw me looking like, just, a deer in headlights.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, but it was actually a lot of fun. Everyone, yourself included, I want to thank everyone for coming over and being just so gracious and welcoming me and just really making me feel at home very quickly. And I left with many friends and acquaintances as a result. And I feel like I'm gonna be doing the bash again next year, definitely.
Good.
I've already reserved my table. Hopefully I'll see you all there too. Um,
That's the
and
plan.
Oh yeah.
yeah, it was a great learning experience. It was successful. I sold, quite a few books, and I'm looking forward to next year already.
Yeah, the Gettysburg Bash is, we've traveled around the country. I know I have. Bree's only been in the field for a little over a year now, but it's one of the best Paracons that's put together. It's a great cause.
Mhm.
So that's like the icing on the cake, I mean, when you can help raise money for, wounded warriors of Pennsylvania and a lot of Toys for Tots and just,
Over 20, yeah, over $20,000 raised. That's amazing.
$20,000 raised. Yep. It's just no matter what, you go home with a good feeling.
Hmm.
You are a part of something big. You helped contribute. You paid it forward, and no matter what, even if you had a successful 3 days of selling stuff or just networking, no matter what, you go home feeling accomplished.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
Steve and Pam, they do their best to open their arms to anybody and everybody. They don't take any shit. They don't like drama. There was a lot of drama coming into this one, and unfortunately, it went pretty drama free.
Yeah.
It could have been worse. It could have been worse.
No, I think it was very well held together. Like you could feel the tension because of the whispers. Oh, did you hear?
Mhm.
Keep your eyes out, and I mean, granted, I think I just zombied my way through regardless because overcoming severe dehydration.
Yeah, she was
Mhm.
extremely sick Friday and Saturday.
I should have been hospitalized with yeah.
Mm.
Well, we on Wednesday we drove through the Gettysburg battlefield. Had family time. Mom was there and Ellie. And then we did Antietam on Thursday, and I packed a big old lunch, made sure everybody had their water, except for me. So we did the tower, the Irish Brigade. We went up the tower, and as we're walking down, like Nick and Ellie are huffing their way down, and I'm kind of just breezing through it, and I start feeling off, and I'm like, this isn't right. And then we
Dude,
go.
I was gonna die. I was gonna die in that tower, walking down them stairs. I thought that was it. Like, I had a good run, 43 years. Like, that was it. Like, I'm just gonna be a part of Gettysburg forever. But made it.
Yeah, your quads. We got to the Burnside Bridge, and I'm like, "Are you gonna come walk out to see the bridge with us?" And he's like, "No, my quads. Like, I'm
Mhm.
dead." We get to the bridge, and we walk back, and like, Mom and I were like teasing Nick, like, we're gonna have to have slushies. And anybody who knows me knows that cherry slushies is like my kryptonite, one of my kryptonites. And we get in the truck, and he's like, "Slushies," and I'm like, "Electrolytes." He
Mhm.
just looks at me and goes, "Are you okay?" And I'm trying to play it off because Ellie's in the back seat. And she's like, "Mom," and I'm like, "I'm fine." But 5 minutes in, I'm like wrapped up in a blanket in the front seat, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Mhm.
bad.
Yeah, well, glad you're better. Glad you're here.
Yeah, I was fine by Sunday, and I'm like, of course, three-fourths of everybody, well, not three-fourths, but like half everybody took off on Sunday, and I'm ready to say hi to everybody and socialize.
I like to people watch, Adam, and I did notice Friday you sat at that table and you were like, I don't know what to do.
Hmm. I was lost.
Saturday,
I admit it.
Saturday, it was you were getting up. You were getting up, you're like, all right. And then Sunday you were like, you were up, you were talking to people, you're networking, and I was
Mm.
like, good for you, bro. Like, because that's what it's all about, especially,
Yeah, of
people
course.
like me and you. I don't know where you're from. I mean, we're from Indiana, so we traveled 8 hours to go to Gettysburg. Yeah, it's for a great cause. We're trying to put ourselves on the map, but it's also about networking, meeting
Yeah.
people from this area or the East Coast and stuff like that. Networking for the future. Stuff like the podcast or you know, uh, racking each other's brains about books and stuff like that. So it was good to see you finally. Like by day 3, you were like, I got this. I see what
Oh, and next year, I'll be blending right in. So
next year, what you need to do is bring somebody with you. Like, look, sell my books. I'm out of here. I gotta go do some shit.
Stand in front of your table, like walk in front of your table and like have a book out. Like people walk by, be like, "Hey," like start grabbing people. Have you
Oh,
heard
all
my
right.
book? I'm the Victorian historian, yo. I think that is so cool though when he explained to us what he does. So like,
Hold on, hold on. Let's let him explain it.
well, no, that's what I was getting ready to ask him to
Okay.
do.
Yeah, she's setting me up.
I'm spiking. I'm like,
She's just gonna tell everybody who you are for
no,
you. Don't
like
worry.
I'm doing the set so he can be like, "Damn," he can spike it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So the Victorian historian, the concept for it actually began in well, yeah, 2018. I was at the Tilly Pierce house in Gettysburg. I was basically new in town. I had just moved to Gettysburg in 2017. I'm originally from Connecticut. Um, so I was in the Tilly Pierce house and I was talking with the innkeeper at the time and a few other people who happened to come in and out. And I overheard, this was during the reenactments in July. I overheard some women in the parlor saying that they wish that there was something else to do besides just the reenactment. they all had husbands who were in the reenactments. They weren't interested in the reenactments, so they ended up attending a tea party event at Tilly Pierce. So that's when I got the idea. I've always been interested in history. My interest in history has always leaned toward the weird and the strange and comical. So I was like, you know what? They're talking about wanting something else in town. I'm gonna, I want to do something different.
Mhm.
So let me work on something. Let me work on this program. And I started doing research. I put together a PowerPoint program. Um, and it's just all weird, strange, comical information dating from the 1830s up through like 1912. And there's props, and I eventually, as the years went on, I incorporated audience interaction into it. And audiences have really taken to it. I've been doing programs around Pennsylvania. I've done them in Maryland, Connecticut, and I hope to continue doing them. But that's basically how it started. And then in 2019, I was like, I wish there were books available of topics that I would want to read about. Again, involving the weird, the unusual, the strange. And there aren't. There aren't any. So I'm like, I'm going to create them. I can't be the only person interested in these topics that I want to
Mhm.
read about. So if I write it, I know others will enjoy it. I write basically what I enjoy. If no one else reads it, I'm still gonna write about it because I enjoy the topic. So at
Mhm.
least I'm getting a book out there. But thankfully, it seems other people have enjoyed the topics that I've written about, and it just makes writing and doing the Victorian historian programs all that much more enjoyable, knowing that others are enjoying what I enjoy sharing.
So let's talk about these programs
Hmm.
and how this came into fruition. Now, I know you mentioned that before you moved here, you were in more to like paranormal teams. You had your own teams. You were
Yes.
a paranormal investigator. So, I guess let's dive into that first, and then we'll
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
we'll come back to the programs and what led up to all these books. So,
Mhm.
obviously, you love history and the paranormal hand in hand.
Yes.
What led you to the paranormal side to investigate, to have a team?
Well, when Ghost Hunters came out, like the biggest show on TV at that time,
Oh yeah,
it caught everyone's imagination and it caught mine. What are spirits? And what is there to be afraid of? So many people are afraid of spirits or ghosts. Um, and I wanted to know what there was to be afraid of. But then also the history lover in me wanted to tie the paranormal to that history. Um, at the time, I was in Connecticut, um, and this is going back to 2016, 2017,
yeah.
when I became interested in the paranormal. And New England is just so rich with history,
Oh yeah.
and there's so many places to investigate, and there's so much history to potentially capture. What other avenue can you potentially communicate directly with those who not only experience the history, but may have even made the history themselves?
Right.
You can read textbooks, you can read biographies, but paranormal investigating, as far as I know, is the only avenue that you can literally potentially talk to those who made the history.
That is true. That is true. It really, I guess that never really crossed my mind. You know,
Not gonna lie, I was responding to a comment on YouTube, so I totally missed the last sentence.
he
I normally can multitask it if I just totally zoned off.
what Adam was saying is the paranormal is the only way that you can literally interact with history in
Oh
real time.
yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
if you can prove factually that the spirit of so and so in this house that lived
Mhm.
let's say 1890 to 1920, and you figure out that this person is what's haunting there,
Yeah.
you're literally communicating with history.
Oh, yeah. Well, I did a 3-week tour out in the East Coast last fall, and I actually probably one of the best catches that I have gotten to date was from what Letchworth Village, and I I knew somebody was in the room next to me. I was actually in a building that is fenced off.
Are you saying you did a B&E?
The door was open. The fence was knocked down.
You learn something new about your significant other every day, Adam.
No, because you got me the Christmas sweater that had Santa standing behind the like taking the mug shot. So you knew about this.
Anyways, moving on.
So I knew somebody was in the room. I just being a medium, I could sense it. And so I turned real quick and I snapped a picture. And I didn't even realize, look at my pictures till later that night. And as I was looking at them, you actually can see the dress that the nurse is wearing. Now, the window's completely gone. It's boarded over. There was no light shining into this room except for my flash. And you can see that she's wearing like a 1910s nurse's uniform. And the body is completely like in the window, but like where her waist is the windowsill. But you can see the dress, like the nurse's dress, continue to the floor. And
Mm.
you can see like she's got the poof sleeves with like the apron that would have like the full apron, and but she's got that nurse's hat
Oh,
that
yes, yes.
that time period, and I was just like,
Excuse me.
you don't even have to zoom in, you can see her right in front of the window, but when you zoom in, that's when you see the details, like you can see where the eyes are, and it's like that's one thing, being the history nerd that I am, the fact that you're able to, through the paranormal, you can actually validate historical accounts
Mhm.
have happened. You can communicate with the spirits that are there, and the names that you can get, the dates, and then you can even get deeper information too, depending on what type of investigating, techniques you're using, or me as the cheat sheet, a medium. He calls me the cheat sheets.
And you know what? You actually mentioning you're a medium. I have something later on in this show that you're gonna love.
Ooh,
Perfect.
So,
ooh,
yeah.
I'm
So
excited.
you move from Connecticut to
Mhm.
Gettysburg, correct?
Yes, yes.
Now, was that a personal thing for work? I mean, what was the reasoning?
So yeah, so backtracking a little bit, or going back a little bit. So I started investigating the paranormal in 2017. The team I had joined up with folded shortly after that, like 2, 3 years. I ended up forming my own team in 2019, Northeast Paranormal Investigation Society, and we worked alongside historical societies and historical properties, investigating their locations, and then afterward, doing public programs on our findings, not just on that location that we investigated, but on all the locations. So it's about like an hour long program. And then
Oh, that's awesome.
the money that came in from ticket sales actually went toward renovations, because a lot of these
Okay.
places started, falling into disrepair.
Oh yeah.
Um, so it was like, you let us investigate and we'll contribute money to your, re renovations. You scratch my back, I scratch yours type of deal. And so I did that with my team from 2019 through, I'm sorry, 2009. I'm sorry, I got getting my dates mixed up.
You're all right.
I formed my yes, I formed my own team in 2009, but unfortunately had to disband it when I moved to Gettysburg in 2017. I owned the equipment, so it naturally came with me.
Well, I
Um,
would assume so. That's
yeah, yeah. And then everyone just sort of went their own way. They ended up having, they developed new interests. They did their own thing. I reinvented myself as a Victorian historian, so I moved on. Um, I still am very interested in investigating. If I ever get a chance to go investigating, I'm definitely interested, and but yeah, so to answer your question, I had visited Gettysburg with some friends. it was sort of an annual thing that we did. We came to Gettysburg. But then one by one, my friends all started getting married and having families of their own. And that left me by myself, the lone bachelor. So I decided because they were married and had families of their own, they couldn't easily get away to go on these
Right,
annual
yeah.
trips
Yeah.
as they once could. So that left me by myself, and I figured I'm gonna keep visiting Gettysburg because I just love it there, or I'm gonna get a job transfer and move, and I moved. And from the time I made up my decision to move to the time I physically got to Gettysburg, it was only 1 month. It happened very quickly.
Wow.
Mentally, I was already in town. In fact, when I was planning during that month of moving, I was starting to listen to Gettysburg radio stations so I can really become accustomed to the news of Gettysburg and what's going on. So I was already here. I just physically had to follow, and it only took a month. So.
Wow, that's
Wow.
awesome, man. That's awesome.
That's meant to be for it to like
Hmm.
that quick. Like you're
So
here where you're supposed to be.
are you still that eligible bachelor?
I am. I am. I haven't met
Wow,
the
we
haven't
got
met
a,
the young lady yet. Haven't met a nice young lady yet. But
hmm. I'm sure we can send you some crazy woman in the paranormal. We
They're
could, they're all over the place, man.
I know.
they kind of tend to go single white female fatal attraction. So they would be fully committed.
Uh-huh.
You know,
You gonna
that's
tell me something?
watch yourself when you sleep.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah,
So
you'll find yourself with Precious, right? With a knife being held over
yeah.
you.
Oh,
Do you have
yeah.
Precious? Do you have Precious?
Actually,
Oh my God, dude, you're killing me. Oh, here comes this doll.
There she is.
Oh man.
here she is. Adam got to sit and stare her down for like a day and
Yeah.
a half, everyone.
You know,
Mhm.
Adam, we can share custody. I can send this thing to you for a couple months, and then you can send it back. I mean,
I don't
I'll
think
pay
Bree
for
would be
shipping.
too happy with you. I don't think Bree would be happy with you. I think you'd be sleeping on the couch for a while if you did that.
So, okay, you live out a dream. You move to Gettysburg. You're in Gettysburg. You know, you don't have a team anymore. You're trying to reinvent yourself. Again, you're thinking of something that you can bring to the table that's not there in
Mhm.
Gettysburg. So you come up with this Victorian historian, and you start making programs. Is that what you said?
Yeah, start making programs. Just strange, unusual, or comical information relating to America's 19th and very early 20th century.
So
My interest in history, really for years, has been American history, 19th century to very like maybe like the first decade of the 20th century.
right.
So that's kind of my bread and butter, right in that time period. But
So like explain to us how this program what how you did this program. What could we expect if we was to buy a ticket to come to your program?
Mhm.
What's all involved?
Yeah, so basically, I go through. So I start in 1839, and I show and tell the story of the very first photographic portrait. Whereas portraits prior to that happened to be painted, and then I go from 1839. I go to the 1840s. There was a very devastating shipwreck actually in the 1850s, which is not very well known today. The biggest shipwreck known today is Titanic. If
Mhm.
you ask anyone what historic shipwreck comes to mind, when you think of that, it's Titanic. But there was a very historic shipwreck also, the SS Arctic, which took off from England to New York in 1854. And it was a foggy morning that morning, and the Arctic collided with a smaller French steamship. Neither crew from either ship noticed the other until after the collision had occurred. It was too late at that point. The Arctic took on water and sank 4 hours late, or 4 hours later. But on board the Arctic, with passengers and crew combined, there was about 400 people on board. The
Oh, wow.
lifeboat capacity was only about 180. In the panic to get to lifeboats, the principle of women and children first completely ignored. Um, Of the 400 on board the Arctic, only 88 survived, and all 88 survivors were men. Of those 88 surviving men, only 61, yeah, 61 of those 88 surviving men were crew members. So that crew was
Hmm.
out of there as soon as the threat, of the ship sinking. It's basically a very sad, very tragic event. The crew members who survived actually left the country for fear of their own safety, because they let all women and children die. So, sort of, I go into a little more detail about it. I add a little more drama to it. I kind of, sped through it now, but I also tell of holidays and superstitions and traditions and games that were played, and I actually demonstrate games, and I have parlor tricks that I actually engage the audience with. I call the audience up to participate in these parlor
Oh,
tricks.
that's cool.
So, but it's just very, it's just a lot of information that isn't very well known today, and I try to make it as entertaining as possible. Like I said, I kind of breezed through that one,
Mhm.
the Arctic, but it just gives you an idea of, roughly what the show, what the program's about.
So, fun fact about the Titanic, if that's what's really down there,
Mhm.
is the Titanic. So, there's a lot of rumors that, so JP Morgan, okay, owned, you know, most of the financial stake into the Titanic. And what was the sister ship?
Uh, the Queen
Oh,
Mary.
I think it's the Olympic. Was it the
Is it the
Olympic?
Olympic? I don't.
Because the sister sank as well.
Yeah, she did. She ended up sinking. So what had
Yeah.
happened was, so JP had a huge insurance policy on the Titanic, and rumor has it they switched the ships. So
I've
what
heard that.
actually, which
Mhm.
actually sank then, which we think is the Titanic, was the sister ship, but everybody thinks it's the Titanic. He collects a huge amount of money on it. That's that. Are we ever really going to know the truth? Probably not. But it's an interesting topic to talk about.
It's definitely interesting to think about. Absolutely.
I
And
mean,
oh, I'm sorry.
it'd be really
Something.
easy to pull that off back then.
Yeah. And also something very interesting with Titanic is this is a question that I asked during my programs. The White Star Line songbook, which all the White Star Line musicians had to memorize. Um, how many songs do you think were in that White Star Line songbook? Because if a passenger came up to a musician and looked through the book and said, "I want to hear this, this song," uh, the musicians had to know how to play it right away. White Star Line didn't want the musicians shuffling through sheet music, looking disorganized. They had to know exactly what song to play, and so. I'm gonna take a guess how many songs were in that White Star Line songbook that had to be memorized. Every song in this
Like
book had to be
210.
memorized. 210?
I was
Oh,
gonna say 200.
higher than
More?
that.
1,000?
Not that many. Uh, 352.
Damn.
352 songs. And it's mind blowing when you realize these musicians had to memorize them all.
Mm-hmm.
It's just mind blowing.
Well, and then you think that they gathered on the deck and they played to keep the passengers calm as it sank.
Mhm.
Like, could you
Yeah.
imagine like the dedication to their post? Like,
Have you ever been on a cruise or anything?
Um, yes, and it kind of ties into one of the questions you're going to ask at the end.
Okay.
So,
It's
so I'll save it. I'll
oh,
save
so
it for
you
that.
already know the three questions I'm
he
gonna ask. That's right. Okay.
he's
Okay.
been watching. He said that he
So
did his homework.
I've been on a cruise and you're on this massive ship, and I'm standing there and on our balcony, okay, and we're like on the halfway up the 12th floor. I don't know. It was a Royal Caribbean one, massive ship, and just dude, as big as this ship was, like this is a floating, flipping city.
Mhm.
Is nothing compared to just you just look out and there's nothing, just ocean. And I mean, it was just, man, just it puts everything in perspective. Like,
you feel tiny
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and the
We are.
crucial
I mean,
feel
yeah.
insignificant. And then
I was.
fears,
That's the word I
thoughts
was going
you
to use.
have start crossing your mind, and you're like, why?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
So you reinvent yourself. You're now the historian or Victorian historian. You're doing programs, um, and you're getting excellent feedback. But now you want more.
Hmm.
So you start writing a series of books. Now, did you have any background of writing or putting books, anything like this before?
No, I mean, no, I really haven't. Writing is something I've enjoyed, but I never really knew what to write about. I've wanted to write, but I didn't know what to write. Until, I created the Victorian historian programs, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna create some books to go along with this program. And so that's what I did. So I started off. I find parlor games of the 19th century fascinating. Um, Not just because some of them are so unique and bizarre, but it brings people together, and you just don't find that a lot now. Everyone is on their social media doing their own thing. But these parlor games brought families together. And when I do programs and book signings, I actually print out some of these games, and people can play them right then and there. And you actually see families coming together and working together and laughing and enjoying each other's company. And that's what I enjoy seeing. I really love that. And so it's not only bringing bringing families together again. Um, Not that technology is bad, it certainly isn't. But
That's
it does
horrible.
have some
It's horrible.
horrible.
It's horrible.
Um, but it's a way for people to come together and enjoy history. So yeah, I actually
Say, do you have any
published.
of these parlor games available that you can explain to us?
That's the book,
Games
Games of
that
Time Forgotten.
that'd be cool. Did you have that on your table?
Yeah, I wanted to buy every book from him, but I was too scared to
You're too kind.
ask.
I had a
No, dude,
sample.
dude,
No,
she did. I told her no. So
I
blame me.
I'm a book
Blame me.
junkie. I'm not just a history nerd. I'm a full on geek. Like I
Mhm.
love to read, and when I was seeing what you had, I was like, babe, babe. But he's like, I don't hear anything. I'm like, babe, where's the card? I don't hear anything.
well,
Yep.
the books that I was selling were just the History's Haunted Headlines, because Battlefield Bash is more of a paranormal event.
Mm.
So I was selling the three current volumes of History's Haunted Headlines, but I did have my three other books available, just basically examples. I didn't actually have copies for sale of those three, but I did
Oh,
have
okay.
QR codes that if somebody was interested in them, they could find it on Amazon through the QR code.
So tell us a parlor game off the top of your head.
Like your
Okay.
favorite one.
Oh, my favorite one. Okay. So I don't have the prop with me to demonstrate with, but I can certainly describe it. So this is one that I demonstrate during my programs. And it's simply called Apple and Candle. And the way this game worked was an apple was suspended from a string by a light fixture, and the string was tied around the stem of the apple. And then a candle was stuck into the side of the apple and lit. Now, I don't use a lit candle during this demonstration, but a candle was lit. So then, when the candle is lit inside the side of the apple is then pushed and spun. So it's not just swinging, but rotating rapidly. The object of this game is for everyone who's circling around the swinging apple to try to catch this apple in their mouth without getting burned by the candle.
Family
And
would do
as
that.
I, and as you can imagine, it was not the safest game to play. It was not uncommon for people to miss biting the apple, instead bite down on the candle and burn the inside of their mouth or their face or whatever else may occur with playing with fire. So now Apple and Candle appeared in game books of the 19th century, but there were so many injuries as a result of playing this game that by the time early 20th century game books came out, it was then suggested to replace the packet of or the candle with a packet of flour. So now, instead of potentially burning yourself, you can be hit in the face with a packet of flour, potentially covered in it, depending on how many times you're hit. So I guess a bit safer, but a bit messier as well at the end of the game.
Or you can bite it and choke on it too. So
You could potentially, and
I
who
can
knows, maybe
see
that's
how that
happened.
did not make it to the 20th century. Okay. All
Yep, yep.
right. Got another one?
Another one is
that's
let's
crazy.
see. Yeah, isn't it? Um, there were a lot of games involving fire back then. Victorians loved playing with fire, they really did. But there's some more subtle games. There's really some more subtle games. Like I forgot the title of it, but basically the host of the game shows everyone in the room a small little item. It could be a thimble, it could be, a marble, whatever. And then she asks, or he will ask everyone to leave the room, and then that host will hide that small item somewhere visible, not so that no one can find it, but just somewhere among other small items in the room. And then the host will call everyone back in, and they have to look around for the item, and if they find it, they just take a seat. And the last person who is standing is the one who obviously can't find the item, and they lose that game. That's a very simple game. It's very easy to play. Trying to think of some others that are a little more exciting. Let's see.
There had to have been
Huh.
a lot of alcohol involved.
You could do it. In fact, one game which involved alcohol. Have you ever heard of Oh, I can't think of the name now. I can't think of the name. It's a very popular game back in the 19th century. Shakespeare wrote about it in several of his plays. It's right on the tip of my tongue. Snapdragon.
Snapdragon?
Snapdragon.
Okay. What
And
is
Shakespeare.
Snapdragon?
Yeah, so Snapdragon, you take a bowl, you fill it with brandy. I believe it's brandy. And then you drop raisins into the bowl of brandy and they sink to the bottom. And then you light the brandy on fire. And you turn out the lights. So the only light in the room is from the flaming bowl of brandy. Then everyone takes turns sticking their hand into the flaming bowl of brandy, plucking out a raisin, and eating it as fast as they can.
You said raisin. I thought you said razor.
Oh no, raisin. I'm sorry,
Oh, okay. So
raisin.
they're eating. Okay, because I'm like, why are they putting razors into burning brandy?
No,
It
raisins.
could be more interesting with the razor.
It could be.
I was like, wow, they really like their fucked up shit. Damn. Sorry, keep going.
No,
So
no,
they
no.
eat a raisin. Okay, so
Yeah,
they're eating a raisin.
so they pluck a raisin out of the flaming bowl of brandy and they eat it, and whoever gets burned the least amount of times is the winner of that game. Whoever can pluck and eat the most raisins without getting burned the most amount of times is the winner. But the only thing is, people did get burned. There were some major injuries and even house fires. There were curtains that caught fire.
I can
And
imagine
so,
somebody flipping the bowl.
yeah, I'm sure it's happened. Kids played this game. Kids actually play this game. Um, and parental supervision was very, very limited back then. I mean, parents would let their kids play with firecrackers and at that time.
Didn't we when we were growing up? I mean, 80s babies.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah.
Uh,
So Snapdragon fell out of favor probably the first decade of the 19th century because people were losing interest in it because they were getting injured. They were losing their homes, fires. So yeah, just some bizarre games. Those are ones I actually have um a disclaimer in the front of that book of games that time forgot saying, because I do write the directions step by step. Um, I used books of the 1850s up through around 1905. All the instructions were kind of antiquated by standards of that time. So I did rewrite all the instructions in a more modern manner. So anyone today can play any of this game step by step and turn any location into living history, into a place of living history. And there's over 100 games. But I do have a disclaimer saying that play this game, or I don't suggest playing this game. If you do it, I'm not held reliable for what happens.
Gotta love a good legal disclaimer in the front of a book.
You have to. You have to.
yeah.
I had to write the one for his, and that was fun.
Mhm. Yeah.
But you got
It
to
brings me-
because people are idiots nowadays. People would play it and then be like, "Well, it's your fault. You put it in the book."
That was my thought process writing this.
I would think that, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna have to buy your book out of curiosity, and then I'm gonna message you one night and tell you I burnt the shit out of my face.
I was gonna say you're gonna message me
I'm gonna
about
be
that.
like, I'm gonna message him and be like, "So he no longer has a beard." And he's gonna be like, "Which game did you play?"
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, there's other games. There's you've probably heard of the game Blind Man's Buff or Blind Man's Bluff. I think it's interchangeable
It's
those
a
two words.
term, but I didn't know that was an actual game.
Mm-mm.
Oh yeah, it's an actual game where someone is blindfolded and they are, I believe they're spun around 3 times, and to disorient them, and then they have to chase everyone in the room. They gotta chase everyone around, and whoever they catch, I believe they have to try and guess who they caught. And if they guess correctly, then that person then becomes the blind man, or woman. And if he or she doesn't guess correctly, then that person remains the blind man. But all furniture would have to be moved out of the way. I mean, it's just reckless running. That's really
Could
what it
you
is.
imagine playing that at like a haunted location?
Oh yeah.
Wait a
And then
Well,
you
now
get
you got
grabbed.
something else. You got
wait
something
a
else
minute.
And
going
then
on.
you get grabbed.
This might have to happen here.
Oh,
Well, you can imagine, all the other ones you're getting burned, but this one here is a little different where you're blindfolded and now you're running into the candles, knocking them into the curtains and burning the place down.
Yeah, yeah. And then you become that which you are investigating.
It's true. That is true.
Yeah.
so Phil goes, I see myself getting, Kate, Phil, you got to touch the face. You're not going like this.
Oh, what?
Look, Illuminate the Beyond. I see myself getting slapped with that game. It's Philip.
Oh, yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you touch the face, keep it above the neck.
How would you know? I mean, you're just,
Well, you would have to like, man, there's a lot of sexual assault that happens with this shit.
There were games. Actually, there are games in here too that
Philip
involve
goes, oops.
that involve flirting. There are games that involve flirting without using words, just eye movements. And it's interesting. There are some, adult themed games, nothing that's, pornographic by any means, but definitely flirtatious in a time when flirting with someone of the opposite gender in which you weren't in a relationship with was not really looked kindly upon by standards of that
Oh,
time.
yeah,
But
that was
this,
a big no-no.
yeah, but these games kind of, you know, get past that unwritten rule. So
Is that what you play it when the family gets together for Christmas?
only in Kentucky.
not my family.
Sorry, Phil.
I thought that'd be West Virginia.
So obviously, this time period of the 19th century is huge for you. Uh, but I want to bring up a point where, spiritualism age,
Mhm.
the mid 1800s, really started to come into play coming
Yeah.
into the 20th century. A lot of people talk about being mediums and table tipping and doing this ectoplasm, and the photographs, faking photographs. I'm sure you've seen the one where it looks like Lincoln's behind
Yes.
Mary Todd. And Mary Todd was huge into spiritualism. Losing children, then losing her husband, and kind of losing her mind too at some point. But
Mhm.
does this come into play at all into your books at all?
It does. It does actually, because I do really enjoy the paranormal, and now that I'm no longer investigating, I write about it instead. I research and I write about it. I still love to investigate. I just, the opportunity has. I mean, occasionally I'll get out and do some investigating with some teams, but going back to the beginning of spiritualism, like you mentioned, in the mid 19th century, it began with the Fox sisters in 1848, and I actually have pictures of them. Let me find. Here they are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm
they
sure
are.
Oh,
you've seen.
yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, you have Maggie, who's 15. You have Kate, who's 11. You have Leah, who's 35, and they came up with forms of communicating with the spiritual realm. It began as jokes. They would play jokes on their mother at first, and and make knocking sounds and say, wasn't me, but they did find ways to communicate with the spirit realm, and they became so famous for this. They toured. They actually gave live shows. They would sit up on stage with a table. They would do seances. They would do table tipping. Um, and they came up with two ways of communicating with the spirit. One was taking the alphabet. They would write the alphabet on a sheet of paper, and then very slowly they would take either their finger or a pencil and go letter by letter, A, B, C, D, and all through the alphabet. And they would say to the spirit, make a knocking sound at any letter that we stop, that we happen to be on. So if they want A, B, C, D, and they hear a knocking sound after, let's say, asking for a spirit's name, then they go back to the beginning.
Mhm.
Okay, A, B, C, D, and it would eventually spell out the name of who they were
Yep.
communicating with. It was a little time consuming, but they eventually
But
got
that's
there.
what Cody and Satori do.
Yes.
It's the exact same thing.
It is.
So they're like okay, that is really
You didn't know
interesting.
that?
No.
Yes.
Hmm.
It's just a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Um,
then they also developed table tipping, asking yes or no questions. If the answer is yes, tip the table. Um, the thing about the Fox sisters, though, is 40 years later, they started in 1848. In 1888, they had a little falling out. Leah, who was the oldest sister, she got a little greedy and she wanted to keep all the ticket profits for herself. And she did this a few different times. And the sisters, of course, argued with her about it. They wanted their fair share. They eventually settled. They smoothed things over. They made up. But in 1888, Leah did this again. She tried to keep all the ticket sales profits to herself. And the sisters are like, that's it. We're not dealing with this anymore. So they decided they were going to out Leah. The thing about the Fox sisters is they weren't real spiritualists. They
mhm.
were what we would now call frauds.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did know that about them.
Wait, well, it was wasn't it the last one that passed on her dying or on her deathbed? She admitted it or
Yeah,
something
she
like that?
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
she did admit it, but they also admitted it in public. During a performance, actually, one of the sisters, or two of the sisters, the two younger ones, said that they had been faking the knocking this whole time. They wanted to out Leah. They didn't want, Leah being successful and, just out of spite for her keeping all this money to herself. They outed her. At the same time, though, they outed themselves in the process. So they lost all credibility
Mhm.
as authentic spiritualists. But it was the ball was already rolling.
Yeah.
Spiritualism was taking over the nation. Then you get into the Civil War period. Um, there were a lack of ghost stories in papers at that time because people didn't want to read about ghosts. There was so much death and destruction during the war years that there was no need for ghost stories at that time. Um, but then, of course, ghost stories came back into fashion after the war when people wanted to reconnect or communicate with loved ones who they didn't get to say goodbye to. Those loved ones didn't have what was called a good death at that time, which was
Right.
basically a good death is when you die at home, surrounded by loved ones. Now, these soldiers, these young men are on battlefields being killed, falling right where they stand. There's no chance for their families to say goodbye. The good death no longer exists.
Mhm.
And families wanted closure and they couldn't get closure. So their form of closure was reaching out to mediums and hoping the medium could communicate through that loved one a message that they're okay on the other side.
Yeah, then Snapdragon and the blind game eventually went away, and on Saturday night instead of those games they had seances.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
yeah. Seances became an evening's entertainment at home. Absolutely. Um, and so the mediums and this is interesting. So there was an explosion of interest in spiritualism by the 1870s. By the beginning of the 1870s, I mean, ghost stories were appearing everywhere. People couldn't get enough of them. And there was such a spiritual boom that actually spiritualism became known as an unofficial religion. So if you asked someone what their religion was in the 1870s, they could say, I'm a spiritualist, and that was their religion. Um, with the explosion of spiritualism, though, you also had an explosion of mediums. Now everybody was, became a medium, and some of these mediums were legitimate, and some were only out to make money. They would charge these families to receive communication from those who had passed, and but some legitimate ones didn't charge anything. They wanted to truly help these families.
Kind of like
Um,
today.
exactly, exactly, and just like today, there were skeptics back then. And some of these skeptics issued public challenges to mediums in newspapers.
Mhm.
And one such challenger, I have the information here. Um, his name is Henry Guy Carlson. And I have a picture, or I'm sorry, Henry Guy Carlton. I have a picture of him.
Oh yeah, he looks like a skeptic.
Yeah. And he was a journalist and he was a playwright and he was a skeptic. And he didn't believe in mediums. He didn't think that they could talk with the other side. So he issued a public challenge in a newspaper, which ended up being printed in New York papers in throughout, let me see, I have the date here, throughout April of 1888.
Okay.
Now, Carleton had some money and he offered financial rewards to anyone who claimed to be a medium who could actually prove to him that they did have that ability. His challenge consisted of 11 rules,
Mhm.
and I can read those rules to you if you want to
Oh
hear
yeah,
them.
let's hear it.
And
Let's hear it. I want to hear it.
I know Bree's gonna love this as a medium herself. So these are the rules of the challenge. Rule number one: if any slate writing is to be done, the slate must be kept in full view and the medium's hands, feet, and other features carefully watched.
Okay.
Number two: if spooks can write under a table, they can write above it. Writing under a table may be more wonderful, but writing in full view will satisfy me and should be just the same to the spooks. So
Okay.
no hiding, basically. No
I'm
chance for someone to do some trickery.
digging.
Number three, yeah. Number three, if raps are to be produced, they will be produced upon a table from which, I'm sorry, will be produced upon a table which will be of my providing, and no knee joint, finger joint, or toe joint raps by the medium will be allowed. No fair-minded specter can object to this rule. And that's because the Fox sisters, that's how they created the knocking sounds. They could actually
Off
crack
their
their toe
joints.
joints, yeah, on command. So number four, if any spook personally acquainted with me wishes to introduce himself, he must write upon two slates held in full view his name, age, weight, and condition, together with a statement of the incidents which happened last time we were together, whether full or otherwise.
Wow.
Number five, materialization of fruit, flowers, pie, etc. must take place in the open air as a guarantee of good faith, and I must be allowed to squirt pepper sauce into the eyes of any apparition of whose spiritual nature I may have doubts. I think that's my favorite one.
I'm gonna spray. I'm gonna squirt you with pepper sauce.
Yeah. I guess it wouldn't burn a spirit, right?
No, no, I wouldn't think so. But
Number seven, I will present the name of an intimate friend, now dead, and if any medium can summon his spirit and write down the place and date of his death, I will pay $100 therefore.
That was a lot of money back then.
Oh, yes, it was. The heartless and opulent skeptic who has volunteered to back me in this matter will deliver $1,000 in cash to the medium who will summon any spook who can tell him the name of his dead uncle. Number nine. Professor Herman will be present and $100 will be paid to each medium whose phenomena he cannot duplicate under precisely the same conditions and afterwards show that they are done by trickery. Number 10. The only conditions to be imposed on, I'm sorry, the only conditions to be opposed are those which will ensure fairness in the impossibility of fraud. Spooks which can only work in the dark will be barred. And last
I like
one,
it.
the investigation will be conducted at a prominent theater in this city, meaning New York, within 2 weeks from the acceptance of this challenge. Each party to deposit $500 with the manager of said theater as a pledge, and the gate money to the spooks if they succeed, and to the charity if they do not. And it says, I pause for a reply, Henry Guy Carlton. So those were the rules of his challenge to
Hmm.
mediums, and there were other uh it challenges issued. I wasn't able to find if anyone actually took on this challenge, so I don't know if anyone actually was able to convince Mr. Carlton that mediums can be legitimate.
Probably not. I'm going to assume that if there was one that did, there would be some type of article on it.
Mhm.
I would say.
Yeah.
But so in these books, um, now I know when we were talking at the bash, you talked about how there were like newspaper articles
Mhm.
and stuff in them, like ghost stories.
Yep.
Talk about, I mean, obviously today in 2024, like nobody gets the newspaper.
Mhm.
But I mean, that is the way that you would get your information.
Mhm.
And, people would faithfully, whatever was in that newspaper, that was gold. That was, I mean, you did not argue with what was in that newspaper. But, they had ghost stories. And when something would happen to somebody, an experience, they would automatically go to, a writer and they would write about it in the newspapers.
Absolutely.
I think this is an excellent idea you came up with because, I mean, truly, if you're going to be in the paranormal and you're investigating and you're researching and you're doing all this stuff, you need to go all the way back to this point. You need to understand it. Read these stories,
Mhm.
Yeah, you know about the Fox sisters and blah blah blah, but there's 100 other Fox sisters
Yes.
that were around. There were so many different mediums. And yes, you've heard about Mary Todd and this or that. And people give her a lot of credit for starting spiritualism, but she really didn't.
Mhm.
She got into
She
it.
yes, yes. And she
But
helped popularize it.
right, right.
Yeah, but she didn't invent it. No, yeah. Yeah.
What do you want? You want water?
And the those 11 rules that I read is actually from one of those books, from one of the History's Haunted Headlines books. So
That's
um
awesome.
yeah,
Now
yeah.
you've got three in that series.
There's gonna be four total. Initially there's gonna be five. I decided
Okay.
to limit it to four, but the fifth one may be down the line. There's other topics I want to start writing about also. But I am working on volume four right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to do five.
I,
Yeah,
I,
piece
I
of cake,
want
man.
to.
Just
I
piece of
want
cake. Just
to. Yeah, and I'm sure I will. I just have
I mean,
so
if
many other
there's
topics.
material out there to put in there for it, you got to make a five because that, like, I'll be honest, like, we got to get his books.
yeah, we'll order your books. I guarantee it.
Now,
I really want to see that parlor game, though.
I'm
Mm,
curious now with your like next year with the bash.
yep.
Because I imagine you work a full-time job. So when do you do your presentation? Like,
I
is that
usually
weekend only or
sometimes I'll do them on weeknights. Sometimes I'll do them on weekends. Just depends when they want me to be there.
because I think
You know.
that'd be cool if you offered them as a prelude because people are coming in early. Like this year, we spent time early, and I know we're planning on doing that again next year. And that would be really cool and something family fun. Actually, a lady commented in the chat, Jamie, she said the program is amazing. I brought my kids and they loved it.
Oh, Jamie. Yeah, yes. Yeah. Hi,
And
Jamie.
that would be amazing if you offered that, if you're able to offer that, you know, during, leading up to the bash, or even, I mean, man,
Oh yeah, definitely. But I guarantee you, if we come like for the full week next year, and you had one scheduled,
oh, we would
Mhm.
be there.
we would come
Okay.
Oh
All
yeah,
right.
100%.
hands down, we would be there.
All right. I'll see what I can do.
I'll just fair warn you, like the 1800s, if I didn't like it, I might throw some fruit and vegetables at you, but I'll be there in support.
Okay. Okay. That's good enough. But yeah, but there are so I mean there's hundreds upon hundreds of I wouldn't call them stories necessarily in these haunted headlines books. They're more accounts. There are more,
Yeah.
reports of people having experiences a day or two ago that are now reported in the papers. There was actually an editor in St. Louis, and if you don't mind me sharing something else with you.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I don't know how are we on time? Do we have enough time?
Oh, we can go as long as you want.
Okay,
We're good. We're gravy.
okay. So in 1880.
Okay.
There was an editor from the St. Louis Globe Democrat who hated ghost stories. He thought that they were ridiculous, thought that nobody wanted to really read about them. There was no use for them. So he had written an article that the publication was going to cease ghost stories. And one girl who was in high school did not like that. She loved ghost stories. She wanted her ghost stories. So she wrote to the editor of this publication, and I have her letter in this
Oh
book.
wow. Okay.
Ooh.
Let's hear it.
So it appeared in the St. Louis Globe Democrat on February 5th. It was a Thursday, 1880. And she says to the editor of the Globe Democrat, Dear Sir, it is commonly granted that everyone has a right to express an opinion. And this right I claim. Now, I want to talk about the ghost stories, as your correspondent has so contemptuously denominated them. I always have, and I suppose always shall, like ghost stories. I disagree with your correspondent entirely. In these days of light and knowledge, we poor schoolgirls are so crammed with facts from Monday morning until Friday night that to get hold of something that isn't a fact is positively refreshing. In our opinion, the best part of Hamlet is the ghost. But perhaps your correspondent never read Hamlet, as he has such a horror of ghost stories. At any rate, it seems to me that it isn't fair for one individual who doesn't like ghost stories, maybe they keep him awake nights, to want to deprive us poor schoolgirls of so much enjoyment. They don't keep us awake, no indeed, and we enjoy them. So, Mr. Editor, please put all the ghost stories you can find into your paper.
Wow.
And from what I could find, ghost stories did continue appearing in this publication, and this specific publication sometimes devoted entire pages to different accounts and stories. So her letter may have
Oh
worked.
wow.
Her letter
Wow.
to the editor
That's
may have worked.
awesome.
That's awesome. And it just I don't know, just listening to that, how it's worded, the way this child spoke, in this letter to the editor. Today it would have been like, no cap, bro. We still like you,
Mhm.
yo. Like, you know what I'm saying?
You be capping.
I just, wow. Like, wow. Like, it
Yeah,
just catches your attention. Like,
yeah,
It was
absolutely.
very well written and enunciated and thought out. And the way that
Mhm.
she, included her classmates
mhm.
Yeah,
and school girls,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that would be like a broader understanding that it's not just herself, but there's other children out there that enjoy the stories. I
I
think
mean,
that's huge.
yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that the way, she wrote and spoke. I mean, they were so well educated back then. And if you actually look at a test, there is an example of an 1895 eighth grade final exam. And you've heard the expression, he or she only has an eighth grade education. If you look at these test questions, I mean, an eighth grade education was nothing to laugh at. It
Mhm.
was, I mean, they don't even teach any of the stuff anymore that was taught back then. It's
They
yeah,
don't teach you.
it's
Yeah. They
yeah,
don't teach. They don't teach you anything anymore.
Oh
no,
yeah.
They really
no.
don't. And you could probably stop at eighth grade now because they don't do anything in high school.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Well,
I know because my kids just went through high school and college, so I'm like, I don't understand it.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, our youngest, she didn't even know about 9/11. We taught her about 9/11 and she's going into third grade. And I'm like, haven't you heard about 9/11? She's like, 911. I'm like, ooh. Like,
Mm.
I would imagine something would be done in remembrance,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
even like an elementary dumbed down version. There's a way to still give that information. I mean, that's such a huge part of American history,
Well,
and
let's talk about that. I mean, history is important. One, the bad parts of history, you don't want to repeat it. So you need to learn,
Mhm.
you
I
know.
agree.
Today's day and age, we spend so much time trying to erase history for whatever reason. Myself, Bree, yourself included, we love history.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not to the extent of you guys, where you'll dive deep. I call it nerding out, like
Oh,
stuff like
me
that.
on
But
the battlefield.
I love it. I wish I could spend more time towards it. But it's important, and I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Does I mean, it really saddens me in today's times how one, they're trying to erase some of the history, good or bad. It's history. You need to
Mhm.
learn about it. So I don't know. I'll leave that up to you guys to discuss. I mean, what the future, how important it is to understand and learn history.
Well, I mean, you look at our national battlefields and you see the steady decline of visitors.
Mhm.
I know when I was on my first trip last fall, it was my first one was 2 weeks. And I went to Chancellorsville and there not being any monument except for where Jackson was shot.
Mhm.
And there's a little plaque in the ground for the unknown soldier. That broke my heart. Like there were still placards here and there, and there was still cannons that were placed strategically on the battlefield, but it didn't have the monuments that you see at Gettysburg and Antietam.
Mhm.
And that broke my heart. And from what they were telling me, they had removed monuments. And I was just like, I don't understand because when you go back in the history of these monuments weren't made to glorify, the war. It wasn't made in glory. They were made in dedication of the soldiers that fought there, that died there, that got injured, that literally did, they gave it they gave everything for us to be where we're at now because if even if you look at historically if the 20th Maine had if they had receded, if they had given up the flank, we probably would not have the United States that we know and love, well, struggle through today.
Mhm.
Choose your words
But
carefully.
yeah, there's turning points that need to be remembered, that need to be celebrated because if bayonets hadn't been called, and the 20th Maine fell back into the New York and into the Pennsylvania, they would have given up that fish hook. They would have lost Little Round Top. And that would have given them they could have came back around to Cemetery Hill and just annihilated the Union. And I think about how places, thank God Gettysburg still has the monuments, but I think of how other locations have conceded to giving up monuments and, because it's got to be PC. And people need to understand that the monuments aren't made for the glory of slavery. They weren't made for the glory of the Confederacy. They were made to honor the people that fought and died so we would have the America that we have now to where you can tear down the monuments,
Mhm.
and it's like because of what happened here, you have a continuous freedom to do what you're doing. You're basically spitting on the grapes of, your desecrating, in all honesty, you're desecrating the deaths of these, how many hundreds of thousands of men that perished, fighting in the Civil War and, in any other battle, to give America the freedom that we know and have today. I would
Mhm.
say we love it, but I feel like we take it for granted, and, everybody's forgotten,
Mhm.
and those places, like a lot of people are like, oh, you can't go to antebellum plantations because, well, antebellum plantations were all there were down south. That's where you got your
Mhm.
cotton. That's where you got your tobacco.
Yeah.
That's how they lived.
It was
That's how
the
they lived.
it was the times. It was just,
That,
every
yeah.
everything is a product of its time, and you can't really compare one time to another. We learn, we advance, we make changes. Um, but like these books that are being banned, it was they were products of their time.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a question for you, Adam. And you've done all this research. You put three books together. You're in the midst of the fourth one, and it's got a lot of ghost stories and tales and stuff like that, newspaper articles, all the nine yards.
Mhm.
So we joked today about how we only communicate with ghosts from the Victorian areas. Okay. It's like, why is it always a lady in a white Victorian dress? Why can't it be Britney, bitch, at 3 a.m.? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, tell me, tell me and Bree about some of these stories, like their encounters, what they were seeing. Obviously, it's probably not something Victorian looking like.
Yeah, no. Some spirits that were seen were ones who recently passed away. A prominent person in town that recently passed away, and then 2 days later, residents are seeing that spirit on the property of that home the person passed away in. But no, there's stories in there about people during the 1880s, 1890s seeing Revolutionary War soldiers. Um, there are some. I mean, not too many. Not. I mean, there's so many stories. It's hard to memorize them all. But most of the time, it's people from you know, that passed away a decade ago, that passed away 5 years ago, or even 20 years ago. Murders. There's murders in this book. If there is a ghost story associated with a murder, I do go into the history of that murder. I include pictures of the murderer. So I try to put as much history into the stories as I can. Because, like you said at the beginning of this show, paranormal and history go hand in hand,
Oh,
and you
100%.
Oh,
can't you can't
yes.
have can't have the paranormal without history.
No, no. No, I was just curious. I mean, because the skeptics, the people, they're like,
Mhm.
well, every ghost you're talking to is something. Why is it a Victorian one? Why blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're talking to the guy that's put together three books of ghost stories that are they're published in newspapers, and you're in the Victorian period. So what were they seeing? That's to me, it's like, okay, there you go.
Yeah, it's not just people, they've seen animals. There's just spirits of animals. There was one story I recall, I think might have been the 1860s.
Hmm.
Um and this gentleman moved into a house, and a dog, this vicious dog, would appear at the foot of his bed at night. And then eventually another dog appeared, and the two dogs started fighting. And then now he's got dogs everywhere around his room. Who knows if he was drinking or not? I don't know. But apparently dogs were fighting throughout his house. So it's not just spirits of people. And you know what? I should preface this by saying that I don't claim any of the stories in these books to be true, and I don't claim any of them to be untrue. I'm merely just
Passing them along.
um passing them along.
I
Exactly.
love
Now
that
they were
though.
now they were all reported to be true. All these stories, of course, were reported to be true, but I can't lay claim to that. I can't say that they are in fact true. That's for the reader to determine for themselves.
Now, what would be cool is if we were able to go and investigate some of these, if they
Well,
were
you know
able
what's
to.
interesting is as I was finding these stories, Some of them actually do have addresses. Some of the homes that had activity do have addresses. And I would go on Google Earth and type in the address to see if that home is still standing. And surprisingly, some of them are.
Hmm.
And I was tempted. I was so tempted on a couple
Oh,
occasions
Adam.
to write to the homeowner and say, "Hey, did you know this about your home?" And then send them a copy of the article about spirit activity in the home, and that their home was basically in the news in the 1870s, 80s for being
You know
haunted.
what? That would
Okay.
be really, really cool for you to do and be like, I'm writing a book. This is an article that I'm reviewing for my book, and I'm curious, is do you have any activity?
Okay. I challenge you, Adam. I challenge you. Pick one.
Okay.
Write them a letter.
Mhm.
Send them the article, and and or two. I don't know. Whatever you
And
want to
whatever
do.
happens, happens, right? Whatever happens,
See if you
happens.
get a reply.
Okay. I can do
Let
that.
us let us
I'll
know
do
because
that.
I'm curious. But like, oh my God, yes, I see this all the time. My house is extremely haunted. Blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
That would be so cool because I
Yeah,
mean, dude, you have the article right there.
I do. I do. And
Yeah.
History gets lost a lot with the buying and the selling of homes, and so it'd be interesting to see. I mean, somebody could be living with something and too scared to say anything, and then you're giving them that, oh my God, yes, like you just validated what my family and I have been experiencing, but we've been too scared to say anything. Do
I
you,
mean, because like when we get cases, residential cases, I mean, here, I mean, that's pretty much our bread and butter. So we'll start at the recorder's office and we'll get tax records
Mhm.
and go back to whoever built the house, and you start from there. And each homeowner will start doing research on each person. Did anything relevant happen during this time period, this time period, this time period? And we'll put all that research together. The surrounding area. Did anything happen? That all goes into the folder. So we have that. Then we dive into the investigating part. Does any of it, you know, collaborate or corroborate with each other and stuff like that? So this would
Mhm.
be really cool. Then obviously, if they reply, the second reply would be like, "Can I come investigate, please?"
Yeah, yeah. I seriously did think of doing that, but then I thought better of it. I'm like, this random letter arriving in the mail saying that your house has activity. It was known as a haunted house back in the 19th century. Maybe this person, for whatever, maybe they have religious beliefs that they don't believe in the supernatural, and that could, ruffle their feathers but or maybe they're just not interested, they don't care. But your challenge, I like your challenge. I like your challenge. I think I'm gonna pick one and do it. And then if there's good feedback with it, maybe I'll do another one. So
I think
if if you get the feedback, we'll bring you back on, and everybody wants to hear it.
yeah.
okay,
Well,
okay.
I think if you word this correctly and you explain that you're doing research for your book,
Mhm.
you came across this, you researched to see if the house was still standing, and in no way do I mean any offense,
Mhm.
but
That's a great way of wording it.
I'm
Yes.
looking
Do not write them, Adam, and be like, "You have a demon in your
No,
house."
no.
even
Say
in your
that.
basement and it's coming through your drain. But I mean, if you write them respectfully, like,
I'm pretty sure Adam.
no, but I
Yeah, and then you got a medium
Yeah,
that
yes,
can
yeah.
can back it up. Just don't tell her anything about the haunting or the
So
names.
so I don't know what states these homes still exist in. I mean, I can look it up easily, but off the top of my head, I don't remember. But how far do you travel? Do you both
I'll travel
travel?
anywhere.
we'll go
Okay,
anywhere.
Mhm.
okay,
This is
all
all.
right.
This is amazing. We will travel if you
Okay,
get the go ahead for this, and this
mhm,
comes in fruition. We will be there,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
100%.
all
Oh
right.
yeah.
We'll bring all $10,000 of our equipment here.
Mhm.
We'll set up the full DVR.
You know
We'll
what?
do it all.
I'm gonna do it. You have my word. My word is my bond. I'm doing this.
Awesome. I'm excited for this. I'm excited for you because this could really blow your book into a new direction.
Mm.
A
Or,
really
and
cool
then,
direction.
dude, hear me out. I got another one.
Mm.
This all comes to fruition. Then, as much as they did in the 19th century, you contact the local paper, the Gettysburg, and tell them all about this, and maybe they'll write a new article.
Hey, you never know, right?
Just
Yeah.
saying.
Not that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I haven't found, you know what?
History coming full circle.
I'll tell you what. I'll be completely honest with you. You know, when I had the opportunity with the Bell, and we opened it and we changed literally the whole mindset of Fort Wayne, Indiana, with the paranormal. You know, having the newspaper come out a few times and writing full page articles, you know, and stuff like that on us, and having our pictures. To me, that was so. It was still so cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the newspaper is absolutely irrelevant in today's times. To me, it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I still have those articles. You know, I have a couple of them that are hanging up. I mean, it's. I actually. How do I word this? I actually care more about those newspaper articles than the 2 dozen times being on like the local news.
Mm-hmm.
I actually like having something physical there. That's like there's something about it. There's
I'm the
just
same way. I'm the same way. I completely agree. Yeah.
all right, Adam. Is there any other interesting thing you want to share with us before we go into these three amazing questions you have nothing, you know, nothing about?
I think we covered quite a bit. I'm working on volume 4 right now. Volume 1 is accounts that appeared in the news from 1850 through 1869. Volume 2 is 1870 through 1883. Volume 3 is 1883 through 1889. There's so many stories in the 1880s, I had to divide it up into 2 different books. And then Volume 4 will be 1890 through 1899. And
Love
so
it.
that's what I'm working on right now.
We'll share something with you after we get off the podcast. So when we're done, don't leave yet because I have an
Okay.
idea that could benefit both you and Bree.
Okay.
So, all right, are you ready for these questions?
Yes,
He's like,
sir.
I got the
I'm
answers.
as ready as I'm gonna be.
I've been practicing for a week. I'm ready for these answers.
Been looking in the mirror.
All right, Adam. Tell all our listeners across the globe some interesting or weird fact about yourself that most people wouldn't know.
Okay. This is actually something I don't share with many people, unless this specific question comes up. Um, People have either one of 2 reactions to this story. They have they're shocked or they're absolutely terrified because this feeds into their nightmare fuel. So
Okay.
you had mentioned earlier in the show about a cruise.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I was in middle school, I don't know how old I was, 10ish. I don't know how old middle school kids are. I can't remember back that far, but I was in middle school. And on the last day of school, we were going on this 1 day, if you want to call it a cruise. It was a field trip. We were just, going to sail out and then a few hours later sail back. There was a clown on that ship that was going to entertain us with some magic tricks. And a week prior to this field trip, I heard my classmates talking about stealing the clown's props and running away. Just stupid things kids talk about.
Yeah.
Trying to be tough in front of their friends. Whatever. So I didn't think anything of it. I actually didn't even. I just forgot about it the next day. So anyway, the day of the field trip comes up. We're my class and I are on the ship, and we're in this room on the ship watching this clown do his magic tricks, and everything's going fine. The program ends. I leave the room. I go out on the deck. I'm overlooking the railing, just looking out into the ocean, and suddenly I feel these 2 hands grip my shoulders, and next thing I know, I'm being thrown across the deck, clear across the deck. And as I get up, I see the clown chasing after my classmates, and they're running away, screaming. I'm like, they actually did it. They actually stole his props. So,
Shit.
yeah, so I could say that I was physically attacked by a clown. I don't know, somehow I'm not afraid of clowns.
I was
Somehow.
gonna just ask that. Are you still
And
scared of
I
clowns?
think I have a theory about that. I think I have a theory
Okay.
because
Okay.
many people who are afraid of clowns, they're afraid of being attacked by a clown. I've already been attacked by a clown. That fear is gone. So I think that's why I'm not
Fair
afraid
enough.
of them.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
But that's a
legit.
story. That's a story I don't usually tell a lot of people. And like I said, they're either shocked or they're terrified that a clown was involved. So yeah.
Interesting. All right. So you're gonna go to the clown motel? All right. So second question. Here we go. All right. So us people in the paranormal field, we're weird just in general. But we are very quirky. One, about our dinners before our investigations, and two, about our snacks and drinks while we investigate. So tell us, back in the day, because I know you don't do it as much anymore, back in the day, what were your go to snacks and drinks while you investigated?
We actually didn't have snacks on investigations. Not that there was any rule against not having it, just nobody brought snacks. We didn't even really eat before investigations. I think we were just so amped up to get to this place and set up and start investigating that we didn't even think about food. We just, we didn't have an appetite. We just wanted to get there. We wanted to investigate.
That's no
But
good, bro. That's no good.
but we always ate after, and this is something I miss. Well, occasionally we go to a restaurant if it was, far enough away and an out of state investigation or just an hour from home. Yeah, we might stop at a restaurant, but a lot of times we didn't bring anything with us because they were close by to home. But one thing I really miss is, I think more than anything about investigating is the camaraderie with my
Yeah,
teammates.
yeah.
And I remember after the investigations, we would usually go to a diner on the way back at like 2 a.m. And we would order these like big meals at this diner. We'd make up for not eating beforehand or having any snacks with us. And that's really what I miss a lot about the investigation is just the camaraderie with my teammates and just having fun with them at the diners and it's just yeah. I mean, so
Okay,
to answer yeah, so to answer your question, I know it's a long-winded answer, but we usually ate after the investigation, not before it. But if we did bring snacks, which was rare, it would be like a bag of chips or, which we never really got to
you're
anyway because we were
getting
investigating.
boring on me now, Adam.
I'm
You're
sorry. I'm
But
boring.
I
sorry.
like the whole diner concept,
Okay, let's change this up.
like Waffle
All right.
House.
You come home and your goal is to write 15,000 words tonight. Like you're focused.
Mhm.
So you sit down at your chair, your computer. What would you be drinking?
Probably coffee. I'd say coffee. I can drink coffee late at night and it doesn't affect me. Caffeine doesn't affect me.
Straight black?
Eh, eh, nah, some kind of creamer. I don't know what flavor. Pick a flavor, it's all good to me.
Okay. All right. Any like, carrot sticks? Uh let's see, cauliflower or something you're eating?
Ugh.
Peanut M&Ms? No?
No, no.
All right. All
But
right.
when
So
I edited Nick's book, this is what I mount on.
we got to change this, Adam. I'm gonna have to come back out.
This, and this. These are my
Well, that
snacks.
means that means I have to start investigating again to be
Yeah,
able to have
so
snacks.
we got to
Yeah.
change this. We got to come back out, get you investigating, take you to the Mexican place so you can have bubble guts like the rest of us during the
Oh
investigation.
boy, lovely,
And
It's
lovely.
a demon.
So that aroma coming out of the bathroom is not spiritual in nature.
no, no, it's just it's the cheese and
The rice and beans.
rice and beans coming out.
So is that what you usually have Mexican before an investigation?
Always Mexican if we
Always
can.
Mexican?
Always Mexican if we can.
It's either Mexican or a barbecue place, but if there's a Mexican place available, we go to Mexican.
Mm.
And then Me, it's Starbucks double shots and whatever candy I can put my hands on.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
but that's why I'm a big fat guy. That's why right there.
I wish I had a better answer for you, but
That's all right. You just you had all this time to prepare. You could have just lied to me and made me feel better.
I could have, but
But I like the
yeah.
I like the diner concept.
Okay, it's okay.
It's amazing.
It is. It really is.
I like that because like you're amped, like your adrenaline's going, so you're still wide awake.
Oh yeah.
And like you're going to a diner and you're chowing down. And oh, Jamie says, love your rocking chair, Adam.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I don't know much about this rocking chair. I got it from a woman who said that it belonged to her great grandmother, and she used it during the Civil War. But I don't know if there's cherubs on each side. Um, I don't know if they made styles like this in the 1860s. My gut tells me it's later than the 1860s.
If you
I
flip it
would.
upside down, you'll be able to tell by the way the wood's put together.
Oh, okay, I'll have to do that. There is a tag on the bottom that's torn, and it says
It'll
made. Oh,
the
the
way the wood.
dovetail. Yeah,
Yep. Like the way it.
dovetail.
If it
Yeah,
says made in China, it's
no,
not that old.
made in Massachusetts. Made made in Massachusetts, but I always said if Antiques Roadshow were to come around and I were able to go, this would be the item I would bring because I want to know about it.
Yeah,
So
I used to enjoy that show.
10-pound meatless.
All right, third question. Here we go.
Hmm?
One night, one investigation. You're getting back into the field. You finished your Mexican dinner. You're ready to investigate. Now you can only bring 3 items to investigate with all night. What are you bringing?
okay, so I've been out of the field for a while. So the equipment I have is archaic by today's standards. So I'd have to say digital audio recorder, absolutely. Do some EVP with that. Um, Digital camera, and I guess a K2. I'm not familiar with. I mean, there's so much newer equipment out now, which I know you both use. Um, I'm not familiar with any of it. If I was, I'm sure I'd have other answers. But I only know the equipment I use, which is back from like 2010, 2011.
I mean, the
So,
K2 was high tech back then.
oh, it was high tech. Now it's I mean, teams
It's
still use it, but
it's
there's
a
so much
nostalgia
more.
thing. Like you have to
Yeah.
own a K2. If you're a
Yes.
paranormal investigator, you're not going to use it, but you have to own one. You have to. It's like a REM
Mhm.
pod. You have to own one. But Adam, I'll be honest with you, 90% of the stuff that's out today is all crap.
Mhm.
So it's just a waste of money. But because you come down to the brass tacks, if you're doing, a residential case, you're going to show them what you caught on audio and video and still
Mhm.
photographs, same as what you were doing the last 100 freaking
Yeah.
years.
I
Yeah,
think I mean in my opinion, a lot of the equipment is used today is for entertainment purposes to make an investigation more entertaining. It's not scientifically proven to work the way that it's supposed to, but I mean you can't argue with audio when you play something back and you hear a voice that wasn't there with you at the you didn't hear it when it happened. It's kind of hard to argue with that.
I wonder the guy from the St. Louis Times or whatever it was
Mhm.
that wanted to get rid of the ghost stories. I wonder what he would think nowadays.
Oh, wow, that's I don't know. I think I would like to think he'd be a little more open-minded to it.
Do you have this guy's full name?
Yes. The guy who came out with the 11 rules for the
No, no, no. The
that guy?
guy that wrote in the St. Louis paper that was going to ban all the ghost
Yes,
stories.
yes. I'm sorry. No, I don't have his name. I don't
Damn
have
it.
his name.
Hmm. All right.
Yeah.
If you ever come across it, let me know. But like, we're gonna call him out. Like,
All right. Oh yeah. All right. All right.
you're like, what do you think now, dude? All right, Adam. So take some time. plug away anything you want to plug away. Let us know where we're going to end up buying all 50 of your books. And yeah.
Yeah. I do have some events coming up. I have a book signing coming up in Heartfelt History Gift Shop in Gettysburg. That's going to be sometime in October. I don't have a date set for that yet. I am doing a Victorian Halloween program at the Jenny Wade House in Gettysburg. That's going to be October 19th. I'm doing Para Unity. Are you both going to be at Para Unity in New Jersey? I'm sorry?
No,
Oh,
I
okay.
don't think so.
No.
So I'll be at Para Unity November 2nd and 3rd. I'll be set up in my own room where I'm going to have a display, different stations in that room. It's called Experience the Paranormal Like a Victorian. And I'm going to actually demonstrate how people saw ghosts in the 19th century for entertainment in their own homes. And people will be able to try it right then and there. I'll guide them through it.
So you're gonna
There'll be
have a tipping table?
I don't know how to do the tipping table, but I do have other stations and other methods of seeing spirits that I will demonstrate and have people try right then and there, and they'll be able to live history just as those so long ago experienced
That's
seeing ghosts.
awesome.
And of course, I'll have the books for sale there too. Then I'll be doing a Victorian Christmas program at Jenny Wade again. That's December 7th. And there's other programs being that are in the works, but just don't have dates yet. So
Do you know who Brian Kano is?
yes, yeah, he was on that show. Was it Paranormal Collector?
Haunted
Haunted
Collector.
collector.
Yeah,
Haunted Collector. That's right. That's right.
he's been on a lot of different shows, but he has an exhibit that we hosted one time. But he's trying to do all 50 states. It's called The History of Paranormal,
Mhm.
and it's a fabulous exhibit. And my mind just like light bulb went off when you just said you have an interactive. You're gonna have an interactive room with stuff like that in the Victorian.
Yes.
We got to get these two together.
Oh yeah.
We got to get him and Brian together
Oh yeah.
because I've seen the History of Paranormal exhibit and what he does. It is phenomenal.
I'd love to see that. I would
Why
love to see that.
people shy away from this stuff drives me fucking insane. But we need to get these two together.
Oh yeah.
It's like in Ghostbusters, and we're like, we need to get these two together.
Yeah. No, I think you and Brian would as
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I'm telling you.
that's how you wait. You'd be like,
Well, I'll figure it out.
yeah.
I think it could be beneficial for both of you guys. Seriously.
Yeah.
So
I mean, his
Oh,
display sounds
yeah.
fascinating. So yeah.
well, Adam, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you both.
Don't forget my challenge.
Yes. I won't forget. I won't forget. And I'll keep you up to date. I'll let you know when I mail it out. And I'll let you know, I'll keep you both up to date on what happens as soon as I mail that out.
Awesome.
And send us some links to where people can buy books. When you have an event coming up, we have a little group thread. Send us the stuff, dude. We'll help share it out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could say, for the moment, all 6 books I currently have are, if you go to thevictorianhistorian.com or just victorianhistorian.com, and click on bookstore, I have links to all the books right on Amazon. So
Oh,
it'll
so
bring
you've got your own site too. Okay. Awesome.
yeah, I need to update it a little bit. Haven't updated it in a few months, but I need to do that. So
Well, you better jump on it because now people are going to be checking you out.
okay.
All right, guys. So thanks for listening to another wonderful episode of Old World Paranormal Podcast. And then you're probably thinking, man, this podcast went so smooth. It was amazing. I know because, again, Sean Coletta was not here. So,
It's all because of me.
again, Sean Coletta was not here. All right, guys. We appreciate you for tuning in, and we will see you on the next episode. YouTube, welcome to the post podcast show. If you got any questions real quick you want to ask Adam, type it in the chat. We'll get it to him before we let him go. Adam, I have an idea.
Yes.
Now, Bree and I have been working on this project, and it's got a lot of different rabbit holes in it. Okay. One of the rabbit holes leads to George Washington and a lot of ghost stories.
Okay.
She wants to do something in that era. I don't know. For me, again, much like the Brian Cano thing, with when you start talking about your exhibit and what he does, it clicked. Do you want to do something with George Washington? He loves, I mean, I know your era is the Victorian era, but this could be something.
He could be the historian that I'm needing
Just saying.
to help.
Because if you
Yeah.
dive into a lot of George Washington, even in his youth and when he was, fighting in several wars, even in his youth, all the way up to his presidency, there are a lot of interesting stories.
Mhm.
So, just
Yeah,
food
no,
for-
that is. I mean, even though my specialty is the Victorian era, I do like that era as well. The Revolution period. So yeah, I mean, I can see what I can do to help you fill some of these holes. I'd be glad to lend a hand where I can.
All right. Well, we will reach out to you then about that because it's definitely coming down the pipe. Later on, Amy Schaefer's saying that she may have to get all the books now. It was very interesting and a good show. And
Oh,
Jamie
thank
said
you, Amy.
more isn't always better. And Phil had to make fun of my 10-pound meatloaf from last week.
That meatloaf looked good. I saw that. That looked good.
That meatloaf was banging. That was a good meatloaf.
we literally finished it yesterday. So, yeah, Adam, again, you never know who you meet at a Paracon when you're networking and stuff like that. And, Bree and I both, we're glad we met you.
Yes.
I'm glad I met you both.
Huge supporter of you now and what you're doing now that we understand.
Likewise.
So
Thank you.
stay in touch and hopefully we can get together in the future. And I look forward to hopefully you getting a reply on that channel.
I look
We do
forward to that
plan
too.
on going for the Remembrance Day this year. Remember we were talking about that?
If it works
Possibly,
out.
if it works out, yeah.
If
So,
I
So
get a
we do
reply,
come your way, we'll let you know for that.
yeah, please. Yeah, and if I get a reply, I promise you'll be the first to know.
Awesome. Thank you.
all right, YouTube. Thanks again for putting up with my crap for another hour and 40 minutes. And I will give you guys a heads up coming up in the future. After September, we will be moving from Monday nights to another night because I'm going to be preoccupied on Monday nights for the fall and winter. So we will let you know what night we decide to move to. And